The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello everyone, I am Trish Connor-Cato. Welcome to Tableau video training course. Tableau is a visual analytics platform that makes it easier for people to explore and manage data, and faster to discover and share insights that can change businesses and the world. It helps people and organizations be more data-driven. Tableau supports data prep, analysis, governance, collaboration, and more. As a continuation of the Tableau Introduction video training course, this advanced course is designed to boost the students' competence when it comes to creating visualizations and creating dashboards. The course goes into considerable detail on these two subjects and explores, among other areas, how to create a range of different charts, maps, user-defined fields, as well as a host of advanced features and abilities. We'll start by connecting to a variety of data sources. This will leave you with some great workbooks to practice on and develop on your own after this course. And then we'll take a deep dive into dashboards, including preparation, summarizing data, and interacting with data for dashboards. In Module 10, we're going to focus on more calculations, summarizing your data for getting them ready for dashboards. In Lesson 1, we're going to focus on arithmetic. And in Lesson 2, you're going to learn how to group your data with calculations. Now, we did manual groupings before for our regions for our map, but this is using calculations to do grouping. It's pretty cool. In Lesson 3, you're going to learn about how to display correlation with calculations. And before we get to that lesson, we'll return to this slide show because the calculation for that one is really intense. In Lesson 4, you'll learn how to use crosstabs flexibly. And in Lesson 5, we're going to cover simplifying your business rules with custom calculations. And so there is a Word document in the video description named Calculations. And I have both the calculations for Lessons 2 and 3 in this module in that Word document. So you don't have to type them in, but we will review them when we use them. I already have a new sheet ready to go in our Sample Superstore Live file. And we're going to start with arithmetic. And you're going to learn how to do an ad hoc, also known as an inline calculation during this lesson. So we're going to drag, let's start populating this a little bit before we do our calculation. And we want to drag market segment to rows. And then what you're going to do is you're going to double click in the column shelf. And notice it creates that little long oval for you to type into. And we're going to type in AVG or AV, and then you can tab it in from the list. And then we want the profit field, so I'm going to grab that one. And then I'm going to do the slash for division. I'm going to type AV again and grab average again. And this time, I want the sales field. So you have average profit divided by average sales, which actually equals a profit ratio. So notice at the end, it says in order to apply it, you have to do Control Enter. So I'm going to do Control Enter there. And now you see our visualization is populated. Now, we can right click on the axis so we can change the name of it there by going to Edit Axis. And at the bottom, let's name it, and it's going to sound weird for a moment, but let's name it Hour profit ratio. And we can go ahead and close the edit axis dialog. So the reason why I didn't just name it profit ratio is because there's already a profit ratio field in this data set. And I just wanted you to be able to do an ad hoc calculation. So there's already a profit ratio field in the data set. And we want our profit ratio to display as percentages. So what we're going to do is right click on any column in your viz and choose format. And the format pane opens on the left side of the screen. And we're going to go to the fields drop down and we're going to select our ad hoc calculation. And under scale, we're going to do the numbers drop down and choose percentage. And we'll get rid of the decimal places. So now you see your axis numbers have updated to percentages. And let's go ahead and name the sheet average profit ratio per segment. And on your own, let's go ahead and change the axis title to average profit ratio, and then save your workbook. Now, I'm going to go ahead and close the format pane, and I'm going to click on color on the marks card, and I'm going to just go with my usual orange color. So we're ready for a new sheet where we're going to do some more arithmetic. On this sheet, we're going to calculate cost. So let's start by dragging the order date field to columns. And we want it to display the quarter of the order date. So whether you want to expand it or drop down and change it to quarter is up to you. But the only one we want up there is quarter. Let's double click in the rows shelf. And we're going to type sales minus, and then profit. And go ahead and Control Enter to apply. Now, this one we're going to treat a little bit different than the one we did just a few minutes ago. Let's go up to the row shelf, and this time we're going to click and hold on sum of sales minus profit, and we're going to drag it over to our field list and drop it. So once it's in the field list, you can rename it. It's already highlighted for you to rename, and we're going to type cost and press enter. So now if you look up at your rows shelf, it's the sum of the cost. Now we're not done with this visualization yet, but let's go back to our previous sheet so we can do the same with our average profit ratio field. Go up to columns, and you're going to drag it and drop it to your field list, and then just rename it average profit ratio. So that way it's available if you want to use it on other visualizations. And we can go back to our latest sheet. So one thing that we're going to do is we're going to fix the axis so that it is continuous. So let's do the drop down next to quarter order date. And instead of it being a discrete field where it's showing each quarter like that, we're going to choose continuous. So it still works if you hover over any point, any mark on your line, it tells you what quarter it is. But the axis just says quarter of order date and has like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a continuous line as opposed to discrete. So I want to point out some interesting information down in your status bar on the left side of your status bar, where it's showing you the information from your visualization, which is pretty cool at a glance information. So all the way down there, it's letting you know there's 4 marks. We have 4 quarters. So there's 4 marks on your line chart, 1 row by 1 column, and it gives you the sum of the cost as over $2 million. So good information at a glance. Let's give this viz some more detail. So let's add profit to the rows shelf. And add market segment to columns. And then we decide we want a double line chart. So I'm going to go to show me, or I should say a dual line chart. And I'm going to choose the dual line chart. So we can see both of those values for each segment in the same pane. I'm going to go ahead and collapse show me. And we're going to change the colors of the legend on the right in a moment, just so you know, just something to keep in the background. If it ever doesn't generate a color legend for you on the right, you can make it do so by going to your analysis menu. And you can hover over legend, and it wouldn't be checked here, but you would be able to check it to get that color legend. And the same for a shape or a size legend. If they don't show up automatically, you can grab them from analysis menu. So I'm going to go over to the legend and do the drop down and choose edit colors. And I am going to select a palette. The palette I'm going to select is called, it's all the way at the bottom, it's called Lightning Watermelon. And then I'm going to click on the cost field, and I'm going to change it to red. And for the profit field, I'll change it to green. Actually, I want a darker red on cost. And then I'm going to choose OK. Let's go ahead and change it to month of order date. So I'm going to do the drop down, and I'm going to select the second month on the list. And you can see how it updates our lines. They're now showing monthly. And then we're going to show a filter for the order date. So I'm going to just right click month of order date in the columns shelf and choose show filter. So it shows up on the right. And it is, a slider. And we want to do the drop down to the right of our filter header. And we want to choose start date instead of range of dates. So on the filter, instead of using the slider, I'm going to click right toward the end of January 2019. And I'm going to just manually edit it to tell it to start with January 2021. And you can see how it adjusts. And I'm going to clear that filter so I can right click on it in the filter shelf and clear it. Now, if you want to give your end users the ability to filter, then go ahead and show the filter again and just leave it there so that they have that option to filter if they need to, so they can see whatever they need to see. So I'm going to just add it back and change it back to start date. And lastly, we're going to do just a little bit of formatting on this visual. And so I'm going to right click anywhere in the chart and go to format. And as usual, it opens on the left side. And I'm going to go to the paint bucket up at the top of the format pane to get to shading. And I want to shade this worksheet. I'm going to go to more colors, and I'm going to choose like a really palish green, a little bit paler. Yeah, very pale, very subtle, and click OK. So that really adds, for lack of a better word, some drama to the visualization, makes it more eye-catching. People will be more interested in viewing it. Little color goes a long way. And we'll end by naming this sheet Monthly Cost and Profit by Market Segment. And save. So even though Tableau saves in the background, I always like to save along the way. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the format pane. We don't need it anymore for this portion. And go ahead and get a new sheet ready. So I have on the screen that calculations Word document, and we're getting ready to group data with calculations. So instead of having us type in these calculations, I put them in Word. And so let's grab the first one. I'm just going to start with the if statement. And once we get started with this lesson, I will, of course, break down this calculation for you. And by the way, this is in Word, so I changed it so it is straight quotes instead of smart quotes. If you have smart quotes, it won't work in our calculation editor in Tableau. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that first calculation. And on our new sheet, let's start by dragging category to columns and subcategory to rows. So the thing that happens here, right, if maybe there are times where you just want to see the subcategories and other times where you just want to see the categories, right? And you don't want to have to keep deleting the pills in a visualization. So the calculation that we're going to do is going to create dynamic grouping and ungrouping. And so we can delete both of those pills from the shelves. Just wanted to give you an explanation of what's going to happen here. The calculation we're going to build will allow us to expand or collapse. So collapsed would just be showing the categories. Expanding would be able to see the subcategories. So you don't have to, like I said, delete a pill to change that kind of viewing. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a parameter. So I'm going to do my drop down arrow and create parameter. And we're going to name it group and ungroup. We're going to give it a data type of string. And we're going to allow a list. And we're just going to add 2 values to the list. So the first one is group. And the second one is ungroup. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to create a calculated field. And I can collapse that right side. And we're going to name this calculated field dynamic grouping / ungrouping. And this is where we're going to paste the calculation. So let us discuss this calculation. I'll make my box bigger. Okay. So we're using the if then if, then else if statements with or statements mixed in. So if the subcategories equals bookcases or chairs or furnishings or tables, then if the parameter we created is set to group, then it will group them together and call them furniture. Or else it would just show the subcategory. If none of those things are true, it would just show the subcategory. Then we have an else if block in the middle. So this is the same. It's saying that appliances, art, binders, envelopes, fasteners, labels, paper, and storage and supplies would be grouped together as office supplies. Or if that's not the case, it would just have the subcategory name. The last else if block is creating another grouping. So this one is accessories, copiers, machines, phones, right? They would be grouped together as technology. And then it has else subcategory. So if none of those are true, it would just show the subcategory. Then it ends that portion. Then it gives another else calculation, which saying if none of the above are true, just show the subcategory. So everything from bookcases to phones. If none of those are a match, just show the subcategory. So I didn't want you to have to type all of that in. So that's why I put it in the Word doc. We're going to go ahead and click on a OK. All right, so now we're going to use our dynamic grouping, ungrouping calculated field in rows. And we'll put our sales in columns. Now we do want to show our group and ungroup parameter. So I'm going to right click on it and choose show parameter. So now it defaults to group. So we have these are actually our category fields, right? But if we go over to the parameter and we choose ungroup, we just get the subcategories. So it's not like you would normally, like we saw before we started this, was you can have category and subcategory, but if you were to collapse it, you're still going to see the category, right? So this way it gives you a choice of either seeing by grouping, you're seeing the categories. By ungrouping, you're just seeing the subcategories. So this is another useful interaction that you can have for your end users. And let's go ahead and name this sheet. We'll call it dynamic group, and then I'm going to do a dash, and it's going to be sales information. And I'm, as usual, going to change my color to my favorite orange here to give it some more visual appeal. So in our next lesson, we're going to figure out if there is a correlation between sales and profits per category. Before we do so, I have to give you some background information on the calculation. So a correlation coefficient is a value that quantifies the relationship of two or more variables. In linear correlation, the coefficient quantifies the strength and direction of the correlation between the variables. One type of correlation coefficient, and that's the type we're going to use, is the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. It's also known as R, which measures linear correlation and provides a value between -1 and +1. +1 is total positive correlation, 0 is no correlation, and -1 is total negative correlation. If two variables have a strong positive correlation, then the R value will be nearer to +1. For example, X increases as Y increases. If they have a strong negative correlation, then the R value will be nearer to -1. X increases as Y decreases would be that example. A strong positive correlation is generally considered to be a value between positive 0.8 and +1, with anything below positive 0.5 considered to be weak. So for those of you unfamiliar with correlations, just a reminder, the slide deck is in the file for video of the video's description. So to measure R, the strength of a correlation, the covariance, which is the dependence between variables, needs to be determined and then divided by the product of the variable's standard deviations. There are a few different types of formula to determine the correlation coefficient. We're using the below formula, which means in terms of data that N would represent size, X would be profit, and Y would be sales. This formula is pretty daunting, but once you break it down into parts, it becomes much easier to understand. So on the lower left of this slide, you have the entire calculation, and on the right side, you have it broken into 4 parts, which we're going to review before we do this. For the first part, we'll be using Tableau's size function, which returns the number of rows in a partition. For the second part, we'll be using the window sum function, which returns the sum of the expression within the window. And the window is defined as offsets from the current row. For part 3, xi equals the sum of profit and mean of profit. For example, the window average of the sum of profit, and Sx is the standard deviation of profit. Therefore, we would need to subtract the mean from the sum of profit and then divide that by the standard deviation. And you'll see the line of the calculation that will do that. And then part 4 is almost the same as part 3, except we have to swap profit for sales. Once we have all of the parts, you'd need to multiply them by each other. And the reason why I put this in the calculations is because parentheses is everything with this particular calculation. So I put this in the Word document so we can copy and paste it and make sure we get it right. But there is a reminder to make sure to take special care that the parentheses are in the correct places. So then I have the final formula, which is in that Word document, and a screenshot of the whole thing put together at the bottom. Now we're ready to go in and do it. So now in that Word document, I'm going to go ahead and select the calculation at the bottom and copy it. And then I'll go over to Tableau. And we're going to create a new sheet. So again, we're looking to see if there's a correlation between sales and profits per category. So we're going to put category and profit in rows. And we'll put sales on columns. And we'll use the customer last name for detail. Now we're going to go ahead and create our calculated field. And we're going to name it correlation coefficient. And we can paste in our calculation. So it's 1 divided by size minus 1, right? Then it's times the window sum. Yeah, this one is pretty deep. So I broke down the different pieces. There's 4 parts to this. And you can see that they're all multiplied to each other. Let's go ahead and click OK. And before we use it, let's right click on it in the field list and edit it. So you notice when we come back in, it says the results are computed along table across, and it says default table calculation. Well, table calculations were covered extensively in the introduction course, but I will tell you that they have 2 characteristics. Partitioning, which is also known as scoping. In this case, it's partitioned on the table. And then the second part is addressing, also known as direction, and it's going across the table. So let's go ahead and click OK again. And we're going to drag correlation coefficient to color on the marks card. And so you'll notice that nothing really happened, right? Kind of dimmed out a little bit. And that's because we want that correlation coefficient to be computed using the customer last name. So in order to do that, we're going to right click on its pill in the marks card, hover over compute using, and choose customer last. So we're using a specific dimension for it. And so right now, the darker the color is an indication to you that it is a stronger correlation. I'm going to go to color and edit colors. And I want to choose a different palette here. So I'm going to choose the red, green, gold diverging palette. And I'm going to use 5 steps for it. And I'm going to click OK. I'm also going to, and I'm going to grab it from the field list, I'm going to drag correlation coefficient to tooltip on the marks card as well. And I'm going to make this fill the entire view instead of the standard setting. So it's easier to look at. And actually, let's delete the pill where correlation is in the tooltip because it's already going to be there because we put it in. We computed it along the customer last name, so it will already show in the tooltip. But if I hover over any of these, we'll see the correlation coefficient, like where I'm looking, right? 0.64. So that's pretty strong correlation, right? It means that if sales increase, profit increases. That's what that is meaning. Let's go ahead and add a trend line to this. So I'm going to go to the Analytics tab, and we're going to do a linear trend line. And we'll add some more detail to this. I'm going to close Analytics pane. I want it to go back to the Data tab. We're going to add some more detail by dragging the region field to detail. And so we're looking at it by category and by region at this point. And our color scheme changed, and that's fine. Go ahead and let's name this one Correlation between Sales and Profit. Now we're going to use crosstabs, and we're going to do it in a really cool way. So earlier I spoke to you about using a table as an accompaniment to another visualization. And so let's go to our sales by state sheet. And I'm going to show you a really quick and simple way of creating a crosstab or a table. And the thing is that everything we've been doing so far and that we're going to continue to do is leading up to what we're going to be using on our dashboard. So we already have this map, and we decide that we're going to want an accompanying table. Well, instead of building that table from scratch, this is what we're going to do. Right-click on your Sales by State Sheet tab and choose Duplicate as Crosstab. And then you're going to go to the duplicated sheet right next to its side. And voila, it did it for us automatically. Didn't have to create a table. And so this table could be a great companion piece on our dashboard for that particular map. And we're going to change some things here. Let's start with changing the sheet name. So we want to get rid of the number 2, and we're going to put the word crosstab instead. Sales by State Crosstab. And I want to show you another formatting thing here. Let's go up to the Format menu and hover over Workbook Theme. Now this is Workbook Theme, so it applies to every sheet in your workbook. And it's set to default. Let's choose Modern. And look at how that makes our crosstab look. And you can go to, I'm going to go to the count of products. And you see that's also now in the Modern Workbook theme. I'm going to go back to my Sales by State crosstab. And let's go back to Format, Workbook Theme, and try Classic. And so Classic does the shading in the first row of a crosstab, and I kind of like the way that looks. And if I go to percent of sales by category and state, you'll see that it has the shading as well. Our last lesson in this module is simplifying your business rules with custom calculations. Well, we've done several custom calculations already, but we're going to do this one. And the one that we're going to do will show if sales values are meeting the annual quota by region. So I already have my new sheet up. Let's put the year and the quarter of the order date in columns. And we'll use sales as our text field. So now we're going to create our calculated field. And we're going to name it Quota Status. We're going to type this one in. After we get it all the way typed in, I'm going to make sure that an error happens just so you can see how it can be resolved, right? And this error is kind of a tricky one, so I'm doing it on purpose. So we'll type it in, I'll explain the whole thing, and we'll get rid of the error. So we're going to use the window average function to start. And we want the window average on the sum. So I'm using the sum function on the sales field. And right now, you're in between two closing parentheses. And we're going to type a comma. And we're going to type, so this is the thing, the window average. When we did sum of sales, that was the expression. You can see underneath it the syntax. So sum of sales is the expression. When we do the comma, it wants us to give it a start and or an end. These end is optional at least. So after our comma, we're going to type -1. And then we're going to do the asterisk for multiplication. And we're going to type another open parenthesis. And we're going to use the ATTR attribute function. ATTR, we can pick it from the list. And then we're going to use the date part function, which you can also choose from the list. And then in single quotes, type the word quarter with a capital Q. After the closing single quote for quarter, you're going to type a comma. So now in the date part function, the date part that we put in for that argument is quarter, and now it's looking for the date. So we're going to do order date. And after order date, you now have 3 closing parens. I want you to go in between the second and the third one. And press enter. Now you're going to type +3. Come outside of the closing paren after +3. Type a comma, -1, asterisk for multiplication. And we can go and copy that whole ATTR date part, right? So copy, you don't need the parenthesis there. Copy the ATTR date part all the way through order date field and paste it after your asterisk. Save us a little bit of typing. After order date, on the second line, we need to have 3 closing parentheses. And it lets us know that the calculation contains errors. So this is the error I want it to happen. If you go to the drop down next to the calculation contains errors, you'll see it has 2 errors, and they're both the same. Argument quarter to date part must specify a date part, year, month, etc. Look at how they have year, month in those examples at the bottom. They're all lowercase. And if you notice in your calculation, both quarters have the wavy red underline. It needs to be all lowercase. So change both of your quarters so they're lowercase. I just wanted to give you an example of an error that could happen because of casing, and it doesn't say, hey, this is because of casing. You have to look at the examples it gives you, right? And now we get our calculation is valid. So what is this calculation doing? It's calculating the window average of the sum of sales, and then it says -1. That means for the previous year. And then it's multiplying that by the date part of quarter. So it's multiplying that by the quarter of the order date. Now, again, you have built-in help. if you go to the right arrow on the right side, and you can click on ATTR if necessary, and you see it returns the value of the given expression if it only has a single value for all rows in the group. Otherwise, it would display as an asterisk, and null values are ignored. And we can collapse that. And after that part, it has a +3. So -1 means previous year. In this context, the +3 is meaning it's going to do it on the calculation on the current quarter, but do it for the next 3 quarters as well. Then we have another -1 times. So let me back up a little bit. I made a bit of a mistake here. +3 means the 3 rows, advanced 3 rows, which would be the rest of the quarters in a year. And then it repeats the -1 times the quarter piece again. So this is going to determine the quota status based on the average of the sum of sales for the previous year for the subsequent periods. Let's go ahead and click OK on our calculation. So if sales meet the quota, we want it to say quota met. If sales don't, quota not met. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create another quick calculated field. And we're going to name this quota met ? We're going to use the if function here. And we're going to reference, we want the sum of sales. And we're going to do greater than equal quota status, then in single quotes, quota met, else in single quotes, quota not met. And then I'm going to press enter, and we need the end statement. And we'll click OK. And now we can drag quota met calculated field to rows. So the first thing I want to point out is that for 2019, there's nothing that's been met. And that's because there's not a year previous to that. Remember, it calculated based on the previous year. So for your subsequent years, you'll see when the quota was met versus when it was not met. And what we're going to do is we're going to hide the field labels for rows. So we don't need that quota met ? there. And we can see which quarters and in which years where the quota was met versus when it was not met. Pretty handy calculations. We're going to name the sheet quota status by sales. And then we're going to save. So in this module, we started with arithmetic. We created 2 ad hoc calculations, and we were able to save both of them in our field list for use on other sheets. Then we moved on to grouping your data with calculations. We used a calculation that was in the Word document that allows you to either display subcategories or categories and not both at the same time. And it's based on a parameter, so you can either group or ungroup the data. Then we moved on to correlation with calculations. We went over several slides breaking down the correlation coefficient function before we ended up using it. And you saw that there is, in some cases, a correlation between profit and sales. You learned an easy way of creating a crosstab as a companion to another visualization. And you also learned about the workbook themes that can be applied. And then in the last lesson, you learned how to create another custom calculation, which allowed you to see whether sales quotas had been met. Welcome to Module 11, where we will begin interacting with our data in preparation for our dashboards. In the first lesson, we're going to have fun with filters, hopefully. We've already used filters during this course, but specifically, you're going to learn how to use a wildcard and a conditional filter to group your data with clarity. In the second lesson, Hierarchies for revealing the dashboard message, we're going to start by creating a set. A set is a grouping based on a filter that can be used to show members that are in the set based on its condition or out of the set based on its condition. After we create our set, we're going to create a hierarchy and add our set and a couple of other dimensions to it. And you know, the hierarchy is like category. If you do the plus sign in front of category, you'll have subcategory, so on and so forth. So it allows you to drill down on your visualization. So we'll have our hierarchy and we'll be able to show items that are in or out of the set. And then we're going to move on to actions and interactions. And when we get to this point, we're going to be able to do something really cool called an asymmetric drill down by using another set, another calculated field, and then we're going to use a worksheet action. And I have another slide right after this one where I'll show you the actions that are available. And by using the action, it is going to allow us to create the asymmetric drill down. In lesson 4, we'll do some more drilling down into the details. And so we can do that from a hierarchy. We'll also have our asymmetric drill down. In lesson 5, we'll start working with input controls. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to set up a what-if scenario. So this is going to require us to create another parameter and another calculated field. And at the end, when we're done with it, it's going to show a dual line chart. One line will show the actual sales value, and the other line will show the what-if sales value. So what if sales are 2% more than actual sales, or 4 or 6% or 8%? That's what that's going to produce. And then we're going to spend some time preparing for our first dashboard. We're going to go through our sheets. We're going to make sure our coloration is okay. We're going to change some filter titles, and we're going to add colors to our filters and legends. We're going to make sure that we have mark labels showing when appropriate, and we're going to want them inside the marks, which I'll show you how to do. Now, I promised you a slide with the actions that are available. So there are actions at both the worksheet and the dashboard level. And so each of them have the same actions. You have filter, highlight, go to URL, go to sheet, change parameter, and change set values. In this module, we're going to use both change set values and go to URL. Okay, so we're going to create more filters now. Let's go ahead and bring up a new sheet for this. And we're going to drag product name to the filter shelf. And we've already done general filtering. We did a top filter. We're going to do a wildcard filter now. So in the match value box, we're going to type ACCO. Now at this point, we could exclude it, so all other product names that don't match that wildcard will come up, but we're not going to exclude it. Now, let me show you what happens when we click on exactly matches and we apply. Let's close the filter and drag product name to the rows shelf. And we're not seeing anything because there is no product name that exactly matches ACCO or ACO. Let's right click on our filter and edit it. And let's choose contains. And now apply that one. So you see all of the product names that contain ACO, and it would be anywhere within the product name. And since it's a wildcard, it's including ACO hide. Let's click OK on that. Now, let's go ahead and drag the sales field to the column shelf. And I'm going to have you do this one on your own. I'm going to have you edit the filter so that it contains Avery. So now your chart looks like mine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the product name filter and clear the filter. So now we have all of the product names, which are kind of overwhelming this chart. So we're going to do a different kind of filter, but first we need to do a little bit of research. So what I want you to do is right click in a blank area of your chart and choose View Data. And we want to sort the sales in descending order. So we see the highest sale right here, right? And they're in descending order. And I scroll down and I'm like, okay, so we have some that are greater than 10,000. So we're going to use that in a filter to make this visualization only show those products that have sales that are greater than 10,000. So we're going to go ahead and close the View Data sheet. And we're going to bring product name. I'm going to copy it from rows and put it back in the filter shelf. And this time we're going to go to the condition tab at the top. So we're filtering product name by the sales field based on its sum, and where it has the equal sign, we're going to do the drop down and select greater than or equal to, and the value to the right of that is going to be 10,000. And we're going to apply. And OK. So now we have a more usable visualization. It's not overwhelmed. It's focused on the products that have sales that are greater than 10,000, greater than or equal to $10,000. Now we're going to sort this chart in descending order by sales. So I'm going to go down to the axis and click. When I click once, it's in descending order. And I'm, as usual, going to change my color to orange. And we're going to name this sheet Products with Sales Greater than Equal 10,000. And now we're going to create a set and a hierarchy, which are useful for revealing the dashboard message. So a set is like a grouping based on a filter, that can be used to show members that are either in the set, out of the set, or in and out of the set at the same time. And then you have hierarchies, and we already have 2 hierarchies in our data set. If you look in the fields list, location is the name of a hierarchy that contains these 5 members. Product is the name of this hierarchy, which contains these 4 members. So we're going to get started by creating our set. And to do that, we're going to go to a new sheet, and we're going to right-click on Customer Last, hover over Create, and choose Set. And we're going to name the set Top 20 by Sales. And then we're going to go to the Top tab, select By Field, change the 10 to a 20, and change Average Profit Ratio to Sales. And we'll leave it on the sum of sales. And we're going to click OK. So now we see our set, and it's still selected toward the bottom of your field list. And notice the icon in front of it, which indicates it's a set. So with that already selected, hold down your Control key and click on Customer Last and Market Segment. Right-click on any of the selected ones, hover over Hierarchy, and choose Create Hierarchy. We're going to just name the hierarchy Customer and Market Segment and click OK. So the 3 fields we had selected are in the hierarchy, but we want the top 20 by sales set to be the first thing in the hierarchy. So I'm going to just click and hold and drag it up so it's in the top position in the hierarchy, and you'll see a guideline going across. So you have your hierarchy, which is collapsible, and it includes a set. Now we're going to pull this all together by creating a visualization. So for our visualization, let's go ahead and drag the sales field to columns and our top 20 by sales set to rows. And we're also going to drag top 20 by sales to filters. So what we can do here is, and we could do it in 2 different places. First, let's edit the filter. And we want to choose Show In and Out of Set. And both in and out are selected. So we just want to check that and click OK. So now it's showing the sales that are in the set, meaning they're in the top 20, and those that are out of the set. Now we can get more detail on here. Could do it 2 different ways. We're going to end up hiding this field label. So let's do that first. Hide field labels for rows. And we can do it from the rows shelf. Do the plus sign in front of in out. And now it's showing customer last, which is the next thing in our hierarchy that we created. If we do the plus sign in front of customer last, it will show the market segment. I think it's pretty cool using sets and hierarchies. So I'm going to collapse it to customer last. So I'm going to just do the minus sign on customer last. And there we have the items that are in the set, part of the top 20, and the items that are out of the set. And since we hid the field label, if we wanted to get it back, we can do that from the analysis menu. And if you go hover over table layout, you can do show field labels for rows. And that also gives you the ability to drill down into the set members if necessary, into the hierarchy if necessary. We're going to hide the field labels again. Let's show our in and out filter. So I'm going to right click on it and show filter. And so the end user has the ability to just see all. I'm going to uncheck all. And I just want to see the ones that are in the set. And then I'm going to uncheck that and see the ones that are out of the set. Go back to all. I'm going to name this sheet Top 20 Customers by Sales dash in slash out. And I'm going to give color, of course, to my bars. Go ahead and save. Now you're going to learn a cool action which creates an interaction for your end users. And we're going to do this by, of course, creating yet another sheet. And on this one, let's grab our category field to rows and expand it. So when you expand the category field, it shows the subcategories for every category. What we're going to create is a situation where you can expand just one category at a time. So we can go ahead and get rid of category and subcategory on the rows shelf. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the category field, hover over create, and we're going to choose set. So this is going to be like a placeholder set. We're not going to give it a different name, just category set. Pick any member, so just one, and click OK. Whatever category you chose is going to be overwritten by the set action, so consider it temporary. Now we're going to create a calculated field. And we're going to call it asymmetric subcategory. And it's just an if then else statement. So we're going to grab if, and we're going to choose category set. Then subcategory. Else category. And then we just need the end statement. So this is what's going to cause the set we created to change according to a selection. And we're going to click OK at the bottom. And now we're going to drag the category field and our asymmetric subcategory calculated field both to rows shelf. And go ahead and drag sales to text. So at this point, we're not quite done. If I click on category to expand it, it's still going to show all the subcategories for each category. I'm going to go ahead and collapse that. We have to create a worksheet action to pull this all together. So we do that from the worksheet menu and click on actions. So it's showing actions for this entire workbook. We created our pie chart. It actually created a highlight action on its own for us. And so we are going to go down and click on Add Action. And you have 6 different worksheet actions that you can add. Filter, highlight, you can go to a URL, you'll see examples of that. Go to a sheet, change the parameter, or change set values. Now, we also have dashboard actions, so you'll get more actions later in this course. We're going to choose change set values. And we're going to name this action asymmetric drill down. And the source sheet is the sheet we're currently on. We're going to run the action on select. You'll learn more about these choices in a little bit. And the target set, we're going to do the drop down, hover over Sample Superstore, and choose our category set. Running the action will assign values to the set. Clearing the selection we want it to remove all the values from the set. And click OK and OK again. So this is the tricky wicket. It's going to look like it's not working. So if I go to the rows shelf and I expand category, we get the usual behavior. I'm going to collapse that again. But in our table, if I click on a category, so click on furniture, that's the select action, and you can see that it only expanded the furniture category. If I click on office supplies, the same thing happens. And technology, might as well. And then I'm going to click on technology again, and that's how you collapse it. And that is known as an asymmetric drill down. I've already named the sheet independent category sales. And we're going to add another worksheet action that will take you to a URL. And the URL will open in a new browser tab. So we're going to go to Worksheet Actions again. And at the bottom, we're going to choose Add Action and go to URL. We're going to name this Learn It with an exclamation point. And just to point this out to you, if I look through this list of sheets here, it's not going to show every sheet that we have in our workbook. However, if I go to the Sample Superstore dropdown, it will show you all of the sheets in alphabetical order. So we want to go to our independent category sales sheet. Let's talk about the choices under Run Action On. I don't think you want to use hover. That literally means if you hover over anything, it's going to run the action. Select will force you to select something in order for the action to run. And we're going to use menu, and I'll show you what that does when we get out of here. And so we're going to leave it on menu. We're going to choose New Browser tab under URL Target. And when we enter the URL, we don't have to do the HTTP formatting in front of it. We can just type learnit.com. And you'll see underneath it, it gives it the right HTTP prefix. And we can click on OK and OK. So because this is a table, if this was a line chart or a bar chart or some other kind of visualization, we'd be able to right click anywhere. But since we have this asymmetric drill down going on, if I right click, it's going to expand, right? So I don't want to right click anywhere but on a number. So I'm going to right click on a number. And it's still going to expand it, but you'll see on the menu that pops up at the very bottom, there's a globe, and next to it, it says Learn It with an exclamation point. We're going to go ahead and click on that. So it opens on a new browser tab, and there you have it. An action that points to a URL. I'm going to go ahead and close the browser and get back over to Tableau. And I'll show you another place where you can access that go to URL action. If I expand furniture by clicking on it, you'll notice right here at the bottom, it gives you that on the menu as well. Now, I'd like to show you the other run action on choices. And so let's go back to Worksheet, Actions. Click on your Learned action and choose Edit. And instead of Menu, let's put it on Hover and click OK. And OK again. Now, if you hover over anything, it's going to cause that to happen. And so that's why I said I don't think that you're going to want to use hover, because you can end up with like a whole bunch of different web tabs going if you choose hover. Let's go back to Worksheet, Actions. We're going to edit Learn It again. And this time choose Select and OK and OK. So we actually have to select something for the action to happen. If you click on any value, if you click on anything in here, it's going to run the action. So I prefer on the menu. I feel like that gives me more control. What I'm going to have us do is go back, and I'll have you do this on your own. Go back and change that Learned action to menu. So our next topic is literally drilling into the details. And I think we've covered that a few different ways. We created the asymmetric drill down, which is really super cool. And you already know how to drill down using hierarchies or like date fields, right? So for example, we've done this several times throughout the course, but we're going to get rid of it, but let's grab the order date field and put it up in columns for a moment. And so if we wanted to see the quarter or the month of the order date, we can drill down by using the plus sign, right? And we've done that several times. So I think the new thing, the really interesting thing here about drilling down is the asymmetric drill down for a dimension. And I can keep drilling down on the date. I'm going to get rid of all of the date pills in the column shelf. And we can go ahead and save this. We've also had a little bit of experience working with input controls, but we're going to do a really cool situation here. And so let's go ahead and bring up a new sheet. Sorry, I might nerd out on you on this one, because we're going to create a what if scenario with a parameter. So for example, what if sales were 4% more or 6% more or 10% more? We're going to create that situation. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag order date to columns and sales to rows. And we're going to right click on the year of order date. And we're going to hover over more, and we're going to click on custom. And from the drop down where it says years, we're going to select month, year, and click OK. So now we're going to go ahead and create a parameter. And we're going to name it sales what if. We're going to give it a data type of an integer. And we're going to change the current value to 0. And we're going to allow a range. We're going to check min, max, and leave their values in there. And we're going to change the step size to 2. And you'll see what that means shortly. Go ahead and click OK. And then we want to show that parameter. So I'm going to right click on it and show parameter. And now we're going to create the calculated field that's going to reference our parameter. So we'll name this calculation sales if, and we're going to reference the sales field, and we're going to use the asterisk for multiplication, and then in an open, we need 2 open parentheses here, and we're going to reference the sales what if parameter. We're going to do the slash for division, type 100, close the parenthesis, type +1, and close parenthesis. So the calculation is take the sales field and times it by whatever is what in the sales what if parameter. Divide that by 100 and then add 1. Basically, that's what's going on. Because of the way it's written, it's changing the order of operations by using the parentheses. So it's going to be doing the division part first, then adding 1, and then multiplying it by sales. We can go ahead and click OK. So we have our parameter and we have our calculated field. I want you to notice that on our sales what if parameter over to the right, it's set to 0. So what's going to happen next will make a little bit more sense because that's set to 0. And you'll see what I mean right now. So we want to drag our sales if calculated field and drop it on the sales axis. And we're only seeing one line right now because that parameter is set to 0. So when we use the parameter control and we do the right arrow on the slider, it goes up by 2 because that's the setting that we put in there, right? So once we get it on 2, we see 2 different lines, right? So this is saying, what if sales were 2% more? If we right arrow on the parameter again, we're seeing what sales would be if they were 4% more. So the green line is the actual sales, and the orange line are the what if sales based on the value of that parameter. So we can go up and see it's going up by 2. And it would be nice to have a color legend on this. So we're going to go to the analysis menu, hover over legend, and choose color legend. So we get our sales and our sales if. And we're going to go ahead and name this sheet. And it will be Sales What If Analysis. And you can save your workbook again. So now we're going to spend the rest of this module preparing for our first dashboard. And that means we're going to review the sheets we have, do some formatting things on them, and also decide which sheets we're going to use on our dashboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Sheet Sorter View, the first view button down there, so that we can see all of our worksheets at the same time. And let's select the Sales by Category and Subcategory sheet. You can just double click on its tile to bring it up. So I look at the title and it's descriptive enough. I've already applied the orange colors to my bars, so it has a little bit of that formatting going on. If you have a category filter on the sheet, you can go ahead and clear the filter. We're going to end up in the next module, we're going to create what's called a dynamic filter. So whatever you filter for will show in the title with some additional text. So we don't need the filter on this particular sheet. And this will be the first sheet that we're going to add to our dashboard when we're ready to create it. Let's take a look at our pie chart sheet. And we're happy with the sales by market segment. And what we want to do is we're happy with that title. We're happy with the coloration, at least I am. And the caption, we're happy with that caption as well. Although we'll have to put the caption on the dashboard as well. So we're going to also use this sheet. And remember, I said pie charts are good as companion charts to other related data. So the next sheet, the market segment histogram, we'll use with that pie chart sheet. And that one we're good with the coloration. Now on this one, we're showing the summary on the right-hand side. That will not come over to the dashboard. Let's go to the next sheet, sum and profit by year. For this one, what I'd like to do is have it fit the entire view instead of just standard. And I think because I've been using oranges a lot on my sheets, I want to change the colors on this one. So I'm going to just go to the color card and edit the colors. And I will change profit to orange and then apply. So we have that color coordination going. You know, you want to have consistency when it comes to stuff like that. So whatever colors you really like, those are the colors you should be using. Or if you have a company standard that needs to be used, then go ahead with that standard. And so on this one, I think we should go to label and show mark labels. Now that's kind of convoluted, so let's change the size of the labels to like 7 point and see if that makes it a little bit better. Yeah. Some of them are overlaying, so I might decide to just, let me see if I can get it even smaller. I don't know how small this will go. I know it'll go to 7, but I'm going to try 5. No, it's not going to like 5. So the lowest you can go is 7. Because they're overlaying, I'm going to just get rid of the mark labels. Just it's going to add confusion. So let's see. Maybe I can put them on for one and not the other, which is what I have now. So I just have the labels on for sales. On the dashboard, I might make a caption saying that the labels are representing the sales values. And before I forget, let's go back to the pie chart for just a second. The other thing we want to pay attention to are titles on our cards on the right. So this is just showing the grand total of all sales. And so I don't want it to say sum of sales. I'm going to do the drop down and edit title. And I'm going to call it overall sales. So it's a little bit more clear there. Now I'm going to go to the annual sales sheet. And this is by category and subcategory. And so we have our legend on the right side for the subcategories. I think this one is in pretty good shape. So we'll go to the next sheet. Now, we're not going to use this total sales by subcategory box plot. We're going to use the total sales by subcategory box and whisper plot instead for a dashboard. So let's review what we can do with this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is have it fit the entire view. And then I'm going to just change my color to my orange color. And let's move on to sales aggregates. And we're not going to use this on our dashboard. So let's move to the next one. On this one, I think the only thing I want to change is the position of the mark labels. I'd like them to be centered inside the bars. So we're going to go over to label. And for alignment, we're going to do the drop down. And under horizontal, you're going to select center. So now they're inside the bars. Makes it a little bit more concise. Now, if we go back to our sales by category sheet, we could consider doing something like that. Let's see what happens if we change this from standard fit to entire view. So this bar is kind of, when you have short bars like this, we could do it. Let's see what the effect is, but I don't think it's going to fit in this office supplies fasteners bar, even if we adjust the font size, but it's worth a try for consistency. So I'm going to go to label there, alignment, I'm going to center. And so it just almost fits. I'm going to go back to label and let's see if it'll let me go. Yeah, let's go to font and change it to 7. So that will work. And we have the consistency. Now let's go to the chart after our top 10 products by sales value. And that's the average and total sales by market segment. And I think that we may use that on the chart. We'll make that decision later, but I'm going to go ahead and give it my color as usual. And then the next one is, let's see what we're going to do with this one. We will use this. Let's make it fit the entire view. Coloration is fine. We have our region and category legends over here. And I think that that is fine. Let's go to the next one. Quantity by sub-quantity and category. We're not going to use this one on our dashboard. So let's go to our sales trend by year. We'll use this one. Let's change the color. It's already fitting the entire view. And let's go to label and show mark labels to give it more depth. And we're ready to move on to our next sheet. So this is sales profit quantity by category and subcategory. We will leave the title as is. We just won't show it on the dashboard. And let's go ahead and fit to the entire view. I think the coloration is okay. It could be a little bit better. Let's see what we can do about this. So I'm going to go over to sum profit, and we're going to change that title too. But let's go to edit colors first. And we're using red, green, diverging. And I'm going to just change that to orange, blue, diverging. And we'll do 5 steps. And click OK. And let's go to the next sheet, which is profit by category. We're definitely going to keep this one. Oops. I'm going to go back one sheet because I didn't change the title here. And the title is going to be profit range. And so, yeah, we're keeping this one. It's in good shape. Our area chart. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the next one. Sales and profit by subcategory. This looks like it's in good shape. And let's go to the next one. We're not going to use this on our dashboard. Let's go to our days to ship sheet. And we'll use this on our dashboard. I just might want to play with the colors here a little bit. So go ahead and change these colors for ship mode. I'm going to edit colors and see what I can do here. I'm not fond of that red color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change standard class to like that greeny goldish color. And I already have a blue in there. I have my orange. And I'm going to go ahead and do OK and apply. So I like that. We have our days to ship slider here, filter, and we have our order date filter, and they're both fine for now. Actually, I want to give them some color. So I'm going to go to the days to ship one and do the drop down, format, filter, and set controls. And over here for the body for shading, I'm going to do like that pale orange color. And so you see it did it for both. Just to make them stand out a little bit more. And I'm going to close that panel. And I'm going to do the same for the legend. So I'm going to do its drop down arrow, format legends, and use the same color for that one. Let's go ahead and save at this point, even though you know it's saving in the background. This one I also fit to the entire view. It makes those same day ones a little bit easier to hover over the individual ones. And we're going to go to our next one, which is our heat map. Let's go ahead and fit it to the entire view. And I want to get rid of that worksheet background color there. It's not really too visible. So for that, I'm going to right click anywhere within the heat map and go to Format. And then I'm going to go to the Paint bucket. And for the worksheet, I'm going to put the shading back to none. And then I can close that panel. And since we're only dealing with states and not provinces here, we can go ahead and edit the title. So I'm going to right click and edit title, and I'm going to get rid of sheet name. And then I'm going to just type average sales and profit by state. And next we have our sales by state map, which I think is in pretty good condition. We may need to do some things with our cards on the right, but let me actually scroll across on the map to kind of center it really well. And then state, province, we can just change that filter heading title, well, the filter title, just change it to state and get rid of profit province. And we have our sum of sales legend, which is good, but we're going to make it overall sales, the title. And this is our 2018 population, our data layer. So I think that's pretty good. And we can move on to our next one, which is the sales by state table that we're going to use as a companion piece. So first thing I'm going to say is we can get rid of its filter over here. We just don't need the filter there, the filter card. And I'm going to just change my color to orange. Let me see what happens if I do fit width. That's just too much of an area, so I'm going to just go back to standard. And we can change its title to just sales by state. It doesn't have to say crosstab there. And by the way, if you double click a title, it will open up. So I'm going to just do sales by state as the title. We're going to go to our next map, which is our filled map, the number of customers by state province. We don't have to make any changes to this. Let's go to our sales by region where we did the polygon. And I really want to change this to, so in the marks card, let's go to the drop down and choose map. So it gives us, we're still at the filled map. And actually, we'll leave it like this. I think the only thing that will make it clearer, well, we want the regions to be the highlight. So we'll just leave it like it is now. And I just want to scroll it. So that's zoom. Go to my scroll arrow here. Just move it a little bit on the page. And let's go to our next one. This is percent of sales by categories and state. We're not going to use this on our dashboard. Let's go to profit status by year. This is pretty cool. We'll use this on the dashboard. So what I want to do is just give it the color. Profit status by year. And that could be a companion to another visualization. And I'm going to scroll across some more. We're almost done with this process. And let's go to profit or loss. And I think we might use it. Let's change the color on it. We can make that decision at the dashboard level as well. Let's go to our next one, consumer sales. And we're not going to use this. We're not going to use 3M versus non-3M. So let's keep proceeding. Number of products and sales by market segment. We might use this one. I'm good with the coloration on it. Continuing, sales by month over time. This is our animated visualization. We're definitely going to use this one. And I'm just going to change the color to my normal orange. I'm going to have it fit the entire view. And on the right side on that control, I'm going to do its drop down and edit the title. And it's just going to be month. And OK. And we can proceed to the next one. Analyzing by region and customer. Let's do some cleanup on this one. This is where we have our parameters and we did dynamic titles, right? So it's on quantity and sales now. What we're going to do is let's put this to the entire view, and we're going to get rid of this y-axis title, the field label there. So I'm going to right click on it and hide field labels for rows. And I'm going to do the same thing, hide field labels for columns, to clean it up a little bit. We'll go to the next one, which is a average profit ratio per segment. And that's when we created our own calculation there. We may keep it. It's in good shape. Monthly cost and profit by market segment. I think this is in fairly good shape. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to change the month order date title to just month. And I'm going to format it. And I'm going to give it the orange, the pale orange shading. And I'm going to do the same with the legend in terms of the shading. I'm going to see what it looks like when I fit it to the entire view. Not much change. It was already taking up pretty much the entire view. Now it looks like I have some kind of green shading on the worksheet. So I'm going to right click and go to Format and go to the Paint bucket. And I'm going to get rid of that shading. And close that pane. I'm going to save again at this point. I think I want to switch up the colors a little bit too. So I'm going to go to Color and Edit. I think I want the cost. Yeah, I want the cost to be red. Profit, I'm going to make green. I'm going to deviate from my orange here and click Apply. And now we're going to go to the next sheet, which is our dynamic grouping, which we're going to keep. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit it to the entire view, and I'm going to show the mark labels. And for the mark labels, I want them to be centered horizontally. And so if I group, it has the marked labels, and if I ungroup, it has them as well. Let's go to our correlation. I think this is good. I think I want to use a different color palette though. So let me go to correlation. I'm going to go to color and edit the colors. So we have red, green, gold diverging palette. I'm going to change it to the orange, blue, white diverging palette. And I'm going to click on that first box that has that deep dark color on it. And I'm going to select orange for that one and click OK. And I'm going to apply. Yeah, let's take off the stepped color. So now it's custom diverging. I'm going to go back to, let's do orange and gold. And let's see what happens when we step that one. I like that one better. We'll go apply and click OK. And let's save again. We're going to go to quota status. This will be a good companion piece. So I'm going to just change my color to orange. And then we have products with sales greater than 10,000. This one's in good shape. We just want to add the mark labels and center them. We can go to our top 20 sales by customer in and out set. This is in good shape. Yeah, I think if I put it to entire view, it doesn't make sense there. So I'm going to leave it on standard. And actually, let's see, in and out sales. Let's go ahead and show the mark labels centered. And we can go to our asymmetric drill down, which we're definitely going to use as a companion. And we're going to just change the color to orange on this one. And then we have our what if sales. Happy with the color on this one. And we want to change the title on the sales parameter. We're going to change it to use slider to adjust %, and I'll use the % sign. I'm going to set it back to 0, and we have that one line. Actually, I'm going to just leave it on 2. So we did 2 steps for this one. So we've gone through every sheet, did some minor formatting, determined mostly which sheets that we are going to use on our dashboard. Go ahead and save your file again. By way of recap, in Module 11, we started interacting with our data in preparation for our dashboards. We started with more filtering, and this time we got to use a wildcard filter as well as a conditional filter. Then we moved on to hierarchies, but first we created a set, which is a grouping based on a filter that can be used to show members that are either in or out of the set. And once we created our set, we then created a hierarchy, which allows you to drill down to the hierarchy members, and we added our set to the hierarchy. In lesson 3, we created another set and a calculated field, and then we used a worksheet action to replace the set values so that we could have an asymmetric drill down. We also used another worksheet action by adding a URL, and we showed it on the menu. We reviewed drilling into the details by using our asymmetric drill down. We also went over drilling into the details by expanding different levels of a hierarchy. Then we moved into working with input controls, where we created a what-if scenario with a parameter and a calculated field, so you could see actual sales versus what they would look like at 2% more or 4% more, so on and so forth. The last part of this lesson, we spent some time preparing our sheets for our dashboard. So we made sure that our colors were right, that mark labels were showing when necessary. We changed the color of our filter cards and our legend cards just for consistency. And we decided, for the most part, which sheets we're going to use on our dashboard. In this extensive course, we started by connecting to a variety of data sources, in particular text, Excel, and Access database data sources. We started summarizing the data for dashboards. We started by doing arithmetic using ad hoc calculations, which are calculations you perform right in a shelf. And then we moved into grouping data with calculations, and that's when we did our dynamic grouping. You learned how to perform correlation with calculations and how to use crosstabs flexibly. We moved on to simplifying your business rules with custom calculations. So that's when we created the quota status calculated field and the quota met calculated field. In the next module, module 11, we began interacting with data for dashboards. We had some fun with filters. So that's when we used the Wildcard filter and using the contains keyword. And then we did a conditional filter. At that point, we moved on to creating sets and hierarchies. So a set is like a grouping based on a filter that can be used to show the members that are either in or out of the set. And then we created a hierarchy which you can drill down on. We got into some actions and interactions, and that's when we created the asymmetric drill down. And we used a worksheet action to add a URL to the sheet that pointed to learnit.com. We began working with input controls. So that's when we created our what if scenario with a parameter and a calculated field where we could see what our sales values could be if they were 2% or 4% higher than where they are right now. We spent a significant amount of time preparing for the first dashboard. We went through several sheets and adjusted formatting, titles, colors, so on and so forth. We tried to make sure that there were accompanying tables and pie charts for dashboards.